Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC on transfer deadline day. That is it. No more business can be done until January. Teams are going to have to make the most of the squads that they have. Craig Burnley and Shaka, who are we stuck with? Alexander Isak is going to Liverpool. It is done. It is official. Great statement from Newcastle. Talk about a bitter ex. Newcastle United can announce the sale of striker Alexander Isak to Liverpool for a significant British record transfer fee. The Sweden international joined the Magpies from Real Sociedad in 2022, made 109 appearances in all competitions. Juliana Ron joins us. We'll be hearing from Jules in a moment. It's done, Craig. We've talked about it a lot from the moment that he didn't play in the first pre-season game, remember, where Eddie Howe said he was protecting him. And now it's
Celtic.
All... Yeah. Do you remember that?
Sent him home. It was best for the dressing room.
Yes.
Well, I think what we've seen in this transfer window, not that it's any news to us, is that if you throw the toys out the pram, if you kick and scream, if you disobey club rules and regulations and contracts, you're getting what you want, pretty much. Johan Visa, Gyökeres did it at Sporting to an extent, and the owner at Sporting got irate with both him and Arsenal. Alexander Isak has done it, and he's got what he wants. So there's a bit of player power in there. Yes, money talks. Of course it does, and Liverpool have paid a huge amount of money for him. But there's been a lot of sort of players stomping their feet to get what they want in this transfer window. And it's not a good look for the game. I have to say that most of them have got what they wanted. Marc Guehi being the opposite. It seems he did not get his move. We'll talk about that. But he sort of went about his in a sort of quiet, unassuming, classy way, it seems. But the others have, whether you like it or not, have stomped and shouted and banged their fist and refused to train and refused to turn up because they wanted to get this deal done, Alexander Isak being the main one, and he's got what he wanted. So, I think this whole transfer could have been handled better by all sides and handled quicker, but it's been a real mess. But I do feel, in a sense, for Newcastle, in some way, they've got a big boatload of cash here, but, they've tried to do things properly in this transfer. Alexander Isak has not, but he's got what he wanted. He's got his move. And Liverpool have got a very good player, let's be honest about it.
As I mentioned, we talked about Isak a lot, and we'll talk about what that means for Liverpool going forward in a moment. But Craig brought it up, and I want to get to it because I think it's one of the most interesting things that happened today, Jules. The fact that Marc Guehi is still at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that's right. That's the big disappointment, I think, for Marc Guehi himself, and then for Liverpool Football Club, who thought this was done. He passed his medical, all personal terms had been agreed. The agreement between the two clubs was on as well, and Crystal Palace just said we need a replacement. They signed a very talented young French centre-back from Toulouse, JD Convo, but they wanted a more experienced, more ready, I guess, Premier League centre-back, and they wanted Igor from Brighton. They just found an agreement with him and with the club. He went to do his medical, and then something went wrong, and that deal collapsed. And after that, they just had to make a call. Either let Guehi still go and get the £35 million from Liverpool, but then will be quite light defensively for a team that plays with a back three, or keeping Guehi even in the last year of his contract with the possibility of him leaving in January, so you get a bit of money, or going for free at the end of the season. So they decided to cancel this deal to Liverpool, which leaves Liverpool a little bit light at the back. We said that there's Joe Gomez, of course, and the young Leoni, the young Italian player from Parma, but that's it with Konate and Van Dijk, and Konate on the last year of his contract. And for Crystal Palace, they wanted some money because they didn't want Guehi to run down his contract. So in the end, it's pretty loose situation for both Crystal Palace, Guehi, and Liverpool in the end.
Why, I don't understand here. Why have Liverpool left this so late?
Wait, no. I just want to talk about this juxtaposition of morals here. You brought it up, yeah? Well, you've got Alexander Isak, who you've all condemned with the way that he's gone about his business, and he's got it. He's got what he wanted. Marc Guehi's been the ultimate professional. Scored yesterday.
Yeah, but Marc Guehi will be fine. I'll tell you why.
But is this not good guys finishing last?
But no, he won't. Marc Guehi will get... Listen, Marc Guehi will do 6 months at Crystal Palace, could leave in January, or will do 12 months or 10 months, whatever it is, and he will leave on a free. Marc Guehi is in his mid-20s. He's not even getting towards... He's not even at the peak years of his career. He's got plenty of money in the bank in that sense. He will get, on a free transfer, if that's what it is, a huge move. A huge move. He just hasn't got what he wanted at the time. Alexander Isak was in a long-term contract, so that's why he was kicking and stomping, because he thought he was going to be stuck there, because he signed a 6-year contract 3 years ago. Marc Guehi is slightly different, as I mentioned, because he will leave, there'll be an unbelievable amount of takers for him next summer on a free transfer. But I don't understand is if Liverpool really wanted him, they had to give Crystal Palace time. Why are we on the final day of the deadline trying to make a move that everybody's been talking about for 6 weeks? If they wanted this Guehi deal that wasn't super expensive because of his contract situation, they should have sat down with Crystal Palace and bashed this out 4 weeks ago before the Community Shield or anything like that and said, look, this is done. Here's the money. You have a month to go and get your replacement. They did not, and that's why they did not get Marc Guehi. But I don't really feel too bad for him because, as I say, I think at the end of the day, barring injury, some big club somewhere will come along and take him in a bargain-free transfer next summer.
So just because he's got a year left on his contract, he's going to move.
Yes, he's going to move.
Isak had to act the way that he did because he's got 3 years left, and Newcastle could hold him ransom.
He didn't have to. That's why he chose to.
It's not slightly concerning that Alexander Isak has set a precedent now.
Yes.
For what players should do to get a move?
The short answer to that is absolutely yes, and that's a concern. And kind of given where the money is in the game today, can you afford just to carry a player, let's use Alexander Isak as the example, just to make a point, albeit a very expensive point. But the trouble is that standard has now been set. Certainly if you have longer-term contracts. You perform well for a football club, you get this huge contract, a long-term payout, and then if a couple of years into it, somebody else comes knocking, you know how to act. Guehi, for me, I'm with Craig. I hope only the best for him. Let's remember, Arsenal were linked with Guehi last summer at probably twice the price that Liverpool were prepared to pay at 35 million. All of a sudden, this time around now, a year to go, 35 million. Crystal Palace still turning it down. Glasner saying that he needs a centre-back. And I think Crystal Palace have some of the blame to share here. This link has been going on, has been public knowledge for quite some time. And as much as Liverpool have left it this late again, you just wondered if Crystal Palace didn't have their own list prepared, that it would come to this, or anticipating that it would come to this. Now, whatever happens, maybe he moves for 10 million in January or for free. But he has made it known that he's not going to sign a new contract. So he will be fine whichever way. Centre-backs, certainly in this league, are in short supply, and he's a proven talent. He'll get what he's due eventually.
I think Oliver Glasner was okay to. And by the way, Marc Guehi next summer, if everything goes well this year, will have a clamber of clubs.
Absolutely.
He'll get a bumper payday. Crystal Palace probably won't get much unless they sell him in January. But I would imagine that Oliver Glasner was reluctant, but understanding that Eze and Guehi were going to go. Right? I think, and it's a hypothetical here, I think Crystal Palace and Steve Parish, knowing how they operate, would still have done this deal at 35 million or whatever it is without getting the adequate replacement in, because they want the money. But I'm thinking up here and looking at the stock that their manager has. I think if that happened, Oliver Glasner would have walked out the door. He said, not only have you sold my two best players, you sold my best player last year in Michael Olise.
Right.
You've sold Eze, now you're sending Guehi. I've got no replacement. Right? My hands are behind my back, now you've tied them. And I think Palace would probably have done this if Glasner had been in such a strong position with this club, which he has earned through performances and their success. I honestly think he's gone in and gone, if he goes with nobody coming in, I'm going. And Crystal Palace have had to renege on that.
Give us the background to this, Jules.
Yeah, Craig is spot on. There was a big meeting tonight at the club, and that's exactly what Glasner said. And to be fair, we are with him on that point because, like I said, the young Frenchman who arrived, Paris born and bred, which makes him extra special, but very talented. But 19, he just turned 19 in July, so he's not a replacement for Guehi. He might be in 2 or 3 years' time very good, but not now. So Glasner was like, well, I'm left with Lacroix and Richards, basically that. And then Lerma can play as centre-back, I guess. You could find maybe Klein can play as centre back, but this is not good for a club that is also in Europe. So they had to exactly do that. They had to cancel, probably against their will, that deal for Marc Guehi, keep him, and then see what happens in January or next summer.
It's Liverpool that have missed out here.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I bet Stevie, if he's watching, will be thinking that because he was more desperate for a Guehi than an Isak. Because of the situation, if Konate gets injured or something happens. And so they have missed out more, because for all the reasons that Shaq and I have mentioned, and Jules, you know, barring some nasty happens to the player in terms of the injury, he will get his big move. What Liverpool have, on the face of it, is a lack of depth in the centre-half position. Now, nobody's going to come out and feel sorry for them because they've spent a fortune this summer. But if we're picking the bones out of certain areas of the side, then centre-half is a position where they could be vulnerable. There's no doubt about that. And Guehi is a quality footballer. So they've missed out on... And that could be the difference at the end of the day. We saw a very close game over the weekend, not a very good one, with Arsenal and Liverpool. And I think we saw within the game, although we'll see better matches over the season, I think we got a good glimpse about how tight it could be this year between these two. And both have still got a lot of room for improvement. And so that Guehi transfer for Liverpool would just have, given Arne Slot a lot more options in that back line.
To that point, I just cannot believe that Crystal Palace, going back to Crystal Palace, did not expect an 11th hour bid and didn't prepare for that 11th hour bid. No, they're well within their rights to turn that down. If they decide he can see his contract out and walk away for free, they are well within their rights. But to the point and about Liverpool, especially Konate kind of coming off late on in the game against Arsenal, it shows how thin Liverpool are. And this early in the season, again, with everything that's to come, this expanded Champions League format and the cup games, you just wonder, will that be Liverpool's undoing? Well, I want to say yet again, but certainly in the Champions League, faltered a lot sooner than they would have hoped or thought.
So if you've got 4 or 5 centre-halves, you can make an 11th hour bid and you can send another one out on loan or do something like that. But when you are a little thin, that is the position where you are a little thin. You've got 2 full-backs on that side, you've got 2 full-backs on that side, you've got a bunch of midfielders, you've now got a couple of strikers who can play in different positions, you've got wide players galore, so you're covered. Where you're not covered properly is a centre-half position.
Yeah.
Kwanzaa's gone, it's Konate, it's Van Dijk, it's Joe Gomez, right? Why then, this is my point, why then do you leave it?
Yeah.
Unless there's a valid reason that I don't know about, why do you take the chance and the risk to leave it to the 11th hour when it's a position that's vitally important? That's what I don't understand from a Liverpool perspective.
And what would Liverpool's response be to that, Jules?
That they signed Leone, who they really believed in. But again, he's 18 years old. He played 14 games for Parma last season in Serie A. So that makes your 4th centre-back, really, with Gomez, Konate and Van Dijk. And at least, if you count Leone, they covered. You've got backups for the 2 centre-backs positions. And that's why, but Leone cost almost as much, a little bit less than what Guehi would have cost. So I don't know. I think it's fair point to raise. Did they play this on purpose so late to try to get a bit cheaper, maybe? But then you were playing with fire, really, because as we saw, if it collapsed, had they started this move yesterday instead of last night, for example, like earlier yesterday morning instead of last night, last time when we were finishing the show with Craig, one of the last questions was on this Liverpool dealings, and I said Newcastle have opened the door now for Isak. This gone through, and the Palace and Liverpool are talking about Guehi now. Maybe 12 hours more, and they would have done that, and Igor would be a Crystal Palace player or another centre back, and we would not be talking about this deal that fell through.
And Jules, let's talk about goalkeepers. Let's keep Xhaka happy because
he doesn't want to talk about goalies.
I'm fine,
Donnarumma to Manchester City. This is something that's just happened over, I know it happened today, but I mean, it was just in the pipeline over recent days. Yeah, this was on something that was on Manchester City's master plan.
No, absolutely, you're right. When Donnarumma became available, because PSG put him on the transfer list, and it seemed that Manchester City were really the only club, which could be strange, but the only club that wanted Donnarumma, entered talks with PSG and with Donnarumma's entourage, his agents, to finalise a deal. He's a very expensive keeper in terms of wages, that's for sure. Plus, I know he's only 26 years old, but with only 1 year left on his contract, they still paid over 30 million euros for his transfer fee with only 1 year left on his contract. So it's an interesting one. It will be costly, but if he wins you matches, wins you the Champions League, wins you the Premier League, then obviously that doesn't matter so much. They had to wait for Ederson's move to Turkey to be finalised, which it was today around lunchtime, early afternoon, and after that, they just had a few hours to finalise the deal for Donnarumma. He passed his medical in Italy, where he's with the national team, obviously, but they seem very happy, and he's very happy that he signed for Manchester City. We've said it before, he doesn't really suit neither the Premier League because he's quite weak on set pieces and coming out for crosses, and he doesn't really suit a Guardiola team in the sense that his distribution is not the best, but on his line, he's the best goalkeeper in the world. So they weighted the pros and cons at City, and probably in a very short-termist option and mindset, they realised that on his line, it was better than anything else, and that was worth taking the risk.
Manchester City have just taken a boot the size of this studio desk, and they've just kicked James Trafford in the Watsits.
Wow.
Big time. I mean, he's brought the lad back from Burnley, and then just, you know, and listen, that's football. But he actually had his best game. I mean, it's been a short return to Man City, but he was excellent at the weekend for City in defeat. But the trouble is, you're bringing in, you got a chance to bring in one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Like, does this really change the conversation about Manchester City being title contenders, getting back to the best? It's a goalkeeper.
If you can play in the back four.
My feelings are a little bit hurt here.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
Why not spend 35 million on a centre back?
That is the problem. If he can play in the back foot, the goalkeeper, although James Trafford comes back from Burnley and he looked a bit nervous with his feet in the game against Tottenham, he's a good goalkeeper, right? And he hasn't reached any heights like Donnarumma. But it didn't seem on the face of it, Shaq, the most pressing concern if you watched Manchester City last year and Manchester City at the start of this season. It was the same old problems. It was how they got to the goalkeeper rather than the goalkeeper. So this is going to be an interesting watch because he is a good shot stopper, but he's like nervous when the ball comes to his feet. And they roll the ball, City, across that 6-yard box for fun. And unless he's just going to lump it up the field every time, like the old days when you just launch it, he's going to get caught because he just does not look comfortable with the ball at his feet. So again, this is one out the blue, and I think a little bit unnecessary when you look at all the other issues they have in the back line.
Look, we've been discussing Ederson's future since last summer, in all honesty, links with Saudi Arabia and everywhere else. So you understand City wanting to go out and get a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
but they did.
And then James Trafford becomes available. But oddly, so he's linked with Manchester United, and all of a sudden City swoop in and bring him in. And then all of a sudden Donnarumma becomes available. And you understand a goalkeeper of his reputation, of his standing, City being interested. And Jules is right. I don't think there's any other club. Well, of the clubs that can afford Donnarumma, nobody's looking for a goalkeeper. So there really was only one.
They are, Man United.
I'm not sure Man United are going to go that deep, for a goalkeeper in the way that they have, and again kind of topple their wage structure. You saw it when they signed De Gea to an extended contract, that big money contract, and everybody followed suit. I'm not sure that Manchester United are in that position. That leaves City as the only possible landing spot, and credit to them. But
why credit?
Well, no, you need a goalkeeper. And I'm with you.
You bought one.
Donnarumma is one of the best.
No,
in the
I
world.
understand.
The concern becomes for Donnarumma to work. Pep has to change how the City team plays, and there is no suggestion that that's going to happen. And that's the really odd thing about this. We've spoken about Pep's teams, about how he likes his goalkeepers to play, and how he's gotten rid of goalkeepers who can't play the ball with their feet. Albeit the likes of Joe Hart and Bravo were quite some time ago. Unless Pep is changing his thinking, I don't see how this works again. And there is nothing, certainly that we've seen in the 3 games so far this season, that suggests that Pep and City are going to change in that regard.
He's just hoping that, he knows teams are going to create chances against him. We talked about it in the show yesterday. Almost every team in the Premier League fancy the chances of opening City up. And I think he's putting all the money on his chips that he hopes that Donnarumma is going to bail him out. That he's going to be the guy to make these saves. That when they are under pressure, he's going to make a worldie after a worldie, and that's going to be the difference. There's a big question whether that can be the case, bearing in mind in some of the games the amount of space and the amount of chances they give to other teams. So this is a wait and see. But again, if you'd watched City over the start of this season and you look at that back line, you do feel that the money could have been spent better than replacing a goalkeeper.
And as we mentioned, Jules, the reason we're having this conversation is when you looked at Manchester City, a goalkeeper wasn't a priority, which of course is quite the opposite to the red side of Manchester. When you think, right, a goalkeeper like Donnarumma would be perfect for them, surely just to bring a little bit of experience and stability into the back. Why didn't that happen?
I don't know, it's a good question. I mean, he wanted a team that played in the Champions League anyway, so United already, that was not the case. This is, for Donnarumma, and we didn't mention it when we talked about him in City, this is a 100 million euro really investment, because if you count the transfer fee plus the 5-year contract with big wages, this is what it would cost you, and maybe United were not ready to spend that on a goalkeeper. What's more interesting maybe is the Dibu Martinez situation with United, because clearly they were very keen on him. The leadership, the personality, the experience, a winning goalkeeper, World Cup winner, Copa America winner, all of that. That against a young, up-and-coming, very talented, but still young and inexperienced, with 1 year of professional football behind him in Saint-Lamens from Royal Antwerp, with a lot of people watching us would have never heard of that club. And then between the two, they go for the younger options. Cheaper options, probably. And I think one of the issues today was that Dibu Martinez's demands were not really of agreement with United. Very different to Lamens, who's not going to cost them much in wages at all, for example. But in terms of profile, not even just pure goalkeeping qualities that Xhaka can talk about, but just for the leadership that this United team, that Lamens doesn't really have because he's been there 2 minutes as a pro compared to Dibu Martinez, I find this choice really surprising.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like,
well, show me a recent. Well, on the face of it, they look as if they've made a couple of better signings, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we could pick out a dozen signings. You go, huh? That's a scratcher. What's that one about? And you know, they're in this, they keep talking about projects and this, that, and the next thing. And Jules is right. They have built their success over the years. They've always had an experience, whether it was Schmeichel or Barthez or even Mark Bosnich for a period. They've always had, you know, keepers that were super confident and would sort of bully a back four. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'll be honest, I have no idea what this young man's like. I've not got a Scooby like most people, so I don't know. Clearly, they must have done their homework, but then we could say that about 15 of their signings in the last 4 or 5 years. Well, they must have done their homework, and they're selling Rasmus Højlund for half the price. They're getting rid of Anthony for a pittance compared to what they paid. So I can't tell you about the recruitment strategy.
As the story was developing yesterday, I thought this had to be some kind of bluff, that they're going for both. You understand the signing of Lamens at...
You're going for Martinez as well?
Absolutely. You understand the signing of Lamens at that price and more as a long-term project. But you've got to get Dibu Martinez in for all the reasons that Jules just said. And while signing 2 goalkeepers in one transfer window might seem odd, Manchester United need it. If you look at the 2 who've occupied those spots over the last season and 3 games so far between Bayern and Onana. So you totally understand 2 goalkeepers coming in. Now, my concern with Lamens is, regardless of how talented he is, he's inexperienced. You cannot drop an inexperienced goalkeeper into this back four. You dropped a very experienced one in Andre Onana into this back four. You dropped a goalkeeper who, with Inter, got to a Champions League final. And they wanted his leadership, and this back four just left him exposed to the point where his confidence is now shattered. Now you bring a young man who's playing in Belgium, has got 1 Champions League game to his resume, and put him into this, and expect him to transform Manchester United defensively, I thought, again, this was a huge miss for them in terms of the long-term prospects for Lamens, and more importantly, the short-term for Dibu Martinez coming in and what he would have given them.
And you think they're going to have to drop him in
They're going to have to.
after the international break. And if you look at United's fixtures after the international break, it's the tough first 3 or 4 games are against some of the big boys. So that's where they're going to have to drop him in, unless they say, oh, we're just going to wrap him in a bit of cotton wool. But how can they do that when the other two are as bad as they are? So they're going to have to put him in the side.
We spoke a lot over the last couple of months about United needing reinforcements in midfield, Jules. And, of course, the reason that they didn't bring new people in is because of the wage bill, because they needed to clear some of these players off their books. Great news. They've done it. Jadon Sancho. Højlund's gone as well, and Anthony's gone to bed. The problem is they've done it all today, which means that they've now got these wages off their books. However, they've got no time to bring anyone new in. And once again, if you're a United fan, you're sat there scratching your head saying, why is all this being done at the last minute and not done a couple of months ago, where we could use those resources to bring in much-needed reinforcements to this squad?
Well, I think simply because all the clubs that were ready to look into signing Anthony or Sancho, Garnacho, those kind of guys, knew that United were in a weak position, because everybody, the whole world and more, knew that they wanted those players out. So if you're Betis, of course you wait until the last day of the transfer window, because you're going to get an even better bargain. Same for Højlund, same for Sancho, same for Garnacho to a certain extent. I know it was not done today, but it was still only done on Saturday, because all those clubs knew that United was so desperate that wait a little bit longer, and at the end they say, okay, we'll give him to you for X amount, or this or that, get him on loan, or pay some of his wages, all of that. And that's where United, well, again, naive or incompetent, whatever word you want to use, on the transfer window, because they just managed this whole situation of their bomb squad, which, by the way, is a terrible name to use for the players we don't want. It's even more like, we want them out. Look, we've just even put them in their own little squad that can't even train with the first team, but we want decent money for them. So please come and help us. No chance. And that's the reason. And you're right, the midfield, a keeper was needed. Forwards, you probably need, but 3 like Šeško and Bomo and Cunha, I'm not sure. But midfield in this system for Amorim is key. And yet they didn't get any reinforcement there, which is crazy, really.
The problem is United were absolutely desperate to get rid of some of these players.
And everybody knew it.
But nobody was desperate to get their players.
Yeah.
As Joe said, the clubs were prepared to wait and maybe miss out. I mean, Betis don't get Anthony, they'll survive.
Yeah.
You know, if Barcelona don't get Rashford, I know he was done a bit earlier, they'll survive. Chelsea don't get Garnacho, they'll survive. You know, Jadon Sancho. So, you know, clubs were willing to take them at a cut price. They were not desperate for these United players because they've been proven not good enough. They're taking them on a whim, hoping that for a fraction of the cost, it may have been a couple of years ago, they can possibly do a job for them. But they've brought in so many bad players that have underperformed that nobody has been desperate for their players. Nobody's been banging the door down trying to pay over the odds. Not for any of them.
This is business 101, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you put 4 players in a corner and say you're not good enough, but you're still trying to get value, as Jules said, why not take them on tour? Why not just show what they can do? Why not pretend at least that they've got a part to play in your season to try and get people awake, just get them interested?
It's bonkers, isn't it?
It's absolutely...
If you've got a car lot, you don't put all the bangers in the corner, the old bangers in the corner, and then put a sale price on them and hope people come in and buy the ones that the tyres are hanging off.
It just doesn't happen. It doesn't make any sense. But is this down to Amorim?
It's down to, well, both Amorim and the club. I think, again, Amorim could have handled this a whole lot differently. And to your point, we said this at the time, when these 4 players were excluded from training and we're not having them in and we're not taking them on tour, Manchester United just openly said, we are taking whatever we can get for this lot. And then all of a sudden, when you realise, hold on a minute, we might be stuck with these, you try to bring them in and integrate them. I'm a little bit surprised that Rashford got away as quickly as he did. So everybody else in world football knows, even if I want those guys, I can afford to wait. I can afford to wait because there aren't going to be many buyers. There aren't going to be many interested parties. Manchester United, the closer we get to the closer the transfer window, the lower their prices is going to go. It just beggars belief. And for all our complaints about Manchester United playing-wise, Manchester United over the years, and it's always a dangerous comparison to make, have been a very well-run football club. Nothing about their business coming or going speaks to the Manchester United that we continually talk about.
Who's responsible for this, Jules?
I think it's a bit of everyone, really. Amorim was very, very strict on, I don't need them, I don't want them here. I mean, he didn't even speak to them, sorry. So that was that. And from the club point of view, whether that was Fletcher, Wilcox or whoever is in charge of the recruitment and the sporting director role, if you want, it was also what they thought was the best. But I really think that Amorim didn't want them in that first team squad.
Nico Jackson is a Bayern Munich player. This is, of course, something we discussed on yesterday's show. A lot of stories about him going to Munich. And then, of course, because of the injury, meaning that he was going to come back to Chelsea. But he's going to Bayern. That's it. Done and dusted. Bayern with an obligation to buy, Jules, yeah?
Yeah, loan fee, obligation to buy at the end of the season, and bonuses on top of that obligation to buy that can get the whole package to 80 million euros,
Wow.
which I never thought I would say that some club could actually have agreed to potentially pay that much money for Nico Jackson, especially Bayern, who really, if you look at it, he's going to be on the bench. There's no way, unless Company wants to try Harry Kane and Nico, striker partnership combination with Olise on the right and Luis Diaz on the left. But once Musiala comes back, certainly towards November, December, and even Gnabry will play as a 10, Olise on the right, Kane up front, Diaz on the left, and Nico's position will be on the bench. But hey, it's a loan fee of 15 million euros. Then there's the obligation to buy at 50, and then potentially those bonuses that can put it up to 80. But
Jules,
I think this is a good deal for Chelsea.
Why have they paid this much?
I think Bayern has been desperate for a long time now to get another body in, not particularly, a starter, because their front four, especially when Musiala comes back, it's pretty amazing. I mean, what front four is really better than Musiala, Olise, Diaz, and Kane? So they wanted another body, which I can understand in case there's an injury, and they were literally linked. They were linked with so many forwards / wingers / number 9s through the whole summer. Could not get anything through the line. Even we talked about Garnacho earlier. He didn't even want to look at them. Xavi Simons, the same. Even Christopher Nkunku at some point was quite keen and then decided not to go there because he knew he was not going to be a starter. So for Nico, he seemed quite happy to go there. Good for him. For Bayern, it's quite a lot of money for somebody who, for quite a lot of that time, is going to be on the bench because, again, he's not better than anybody in that front four.
If you were sitting on the fence, not that many are, if you were sitting on the fence thinking about how the game has evolved and how the money is now, and you didn't think the game had gone, this is just proof. Nothing against Nico Jackson, but he's going to Bayern Munich on a hefty loan fee with an obligation to buy as Chelsea's third choice striker. I mean, it just, some of the moves that are occurring these days just smacks of agents getting weighed in heavily. People getting paid behind the scenes, money changing hands, and players making moves that you sit and go, really? I mean, is Nico Jackson, Bayern Munich are a juggernaut of European football.
It's not the agent's fault, is it?
No,
Isn't it Bayern Munich's fault for leaving things last minute?
No, but what
that's
I'm
their
saying
job.
is Bayern Munich, and you know, they're talking about how a club's run. Ole Hoeneß and all these, as Jan calls them, muppets upstairs, you know, leaving all this to the last minute. Are we actually saying that this juggernaut of world football, European football, is Nico Jackson was their option?
Yeah.
Is that what Bayern Munich are telling Vincent Kompany?
The odd part is that Bayern sell Matthias Tell earlier this summer. It's 40 million. Now, whether Tell was absolutely adamant that he
And
wanted...
Kingsley Coman as well.
And Kingsley Coman, that they wanted to leave. But you sell Tell, who plays the exact same position as Nico Jackson, for 40 million to Spurs or somewhere around, and you bring in Jackson, or initially for a loan, but it could rise to as much as 80. That makes no sense to me at all in any single level.
Hold on. They didn't. I might be wrong here. Thomas Müller did not retire. They did not renew his contract, right?
Absolutely.
I know Thomas Müller is the wrong side of 30. Are we saying that Bayern Munich think they're going to be better off with Nicolas Jackson sat on the bench than Thomas Müller coming on for a cameo now and again? By the way, just paying his wages, which I'm sure was no small sum. But they've let him go to bring in Nico Jackson. Let that sink in.
Meanwhile, let's move on to Spurs, shall we, Jules? Because I'm interested about Kolo Muani, who I think a few years ago everyone would agree is one of the hottest prospects in European football. What has happened? I was going to say, how's he ended up at Spurs? But I didn't mean to quite put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, again, they've been looking for another forward for quite some time, and obviously we know that they missed on some main targets, like Eze, obviously, and yet Xavi Simons has arrived, didn't play at the weekend, but they just wanted another quite versatile forward that could play either as a 9 or wide, which Kolo Muani is. The deal for Kolo Muani to Juventus didn't happen because PSG and Juventus could not find an agreement, and Spurs thought, he's a good signing. It's not far. He takes the Eurostar. It's just across the channel. Let's go. And it's a loan fee, to be fair. So it's not a bad deal, I think, for Spurs. He's a good player. He's a good kid, really. Not the most clinical, I give you that. Not the most gifted technically too, but he started well at Juventus. Again, he can play in different positions. He runs and he can press, and he's got the right mentality. But I'm not sure how much him arriving at the club, and yeah, there's Richarlison and Solanke, and I can see him playing ahead of them too if he does better and if he takes his chances and stuff like that. I'm just not sure how much this moves the needles for Spurs in a huge season where they will be back in the Champions League, have quite a tough fixture list in that league phase, plus the league where, as we saw already against Bournemouth, they were so inoffensive. I'm not sure Kolo Muani, if you bring him instead of Richarlison in the team that lost to Bournemouth on Saturday, where they had 1 shot, 0 on target in the whole 90 minutes, that Kolo Muani changes this, you know? So I'm not sure this was the right profile, but at least they just have, again, another body.
But Jules, how much did PSG pay for him initially, back in the day?
Yeah, a lot, 75 million euros,
so
without bonuses.
So what's happened? Why has he not been able to fulfill that potential?
I don't think Luis Enrique really ever wanted him. He was very much a club, let's bring the Paris kids back to Paris because he's Paris born and bred. And that was the idea at the time. Kylian was still at the club and Kolo Muani and Mbappe are close friends. I think that played a part as well. And I think very quickly Luis Enrique, and to be fair, everybody else, realized that he just could not do the things that Luis Enrique wanted from his number 9. And that's why very quickly he had a few games, he had a few opportunities and chances, didn't take them for obvious reasons because he was just not good enough for what Luis Enrique wanted his number 9 to do. Then he went on the bench and then he went on the transfer list, and then in January he moved because there was just no future for him at the club. And again, this was the same this summer. I think PSG could have done a move for him earlier, to go back to the point that we made about a few clubs that waited so late. But again, a lot of clubs who were interested in Kolo Muani, including Juventus, thought we're going to wait the last minute, and at the last minute PSG will lower the expectation. PSG didn't want a strict loan. They wanted a loan with an obligation to buy or a permanent deal. But because they waited so long, when Spurs came with a loan offer, they said yes, because it was either that or he would have stayed and sit in the stands and then paying his wages for the next 6 months.
Let's take a look at some of the other notable transfers, shall we, that's happened over the last 24 hours. Remember, this is it. This is the last day you get to do any sort of dealings before the start of January. Let's take a look at some of those notable signings. We're just putting them all together. There you are.
Putting them all together.
Yep. Shaka, you sorted out my pronunciation of Piero.
Hincapié.
Thank you very much. He's joined Arsenal. Jan Visa, of course, has made that move eventually to Newcastle. Luis Suarez has joined Juventus. Jadon Sancho and Harvey Elliott have both joined Aston Villa. Benjamin Pavard, meanwhile, has joined Marseille. Any of those you want to talk about, Craig? You look, I suppose, the two Villa signings.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously Harvey Elliott I think he's a very good player. Obviously, he was surplus at Liverpool. I mean, are we going to keep an eye on Jadon Sancho, see how he does? Because we seem to have been doing that every season. Now, if he's going to resurrect his career, and it seems Unai Emery taking in these loan players from Man United. He took Rashford last year. It kind of worked at times and not at others. But is that going to rejuvenate a Villa side that have started the season very flat? I'm not so sure. I think if you're a Villa fan, it's been a worrisome start to the season and a very disappointing and unexciting transfer window, if we're being honest.
Meanwhile, a penalty, Juventus, Jules?
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie, I didn't see this one coming. For Juventus, who, as we said, wanted Kolo Muani, they already have Jonathan David and Vlahovic already there. They play with one striker, by the way. So now you add Openda. It's a loan with an option to buy. How many number 9s do you want in your squad when you just play with one on the pitch? And yeah, of course, Openda, if you want, can play wide, but they also have wide players, but they play with wing backs. So even Zegrova, who just signed for them for Lille with 1 year left on his contract, I'm not sure where he fits in this system where they play with two inside 10s, where Yildiz and Conceição are those two guys for now. So it'll be interesting to see. But Vlahovic, David and Openda, that's 3 number 9s for just one place.
Let's take a look at some other notable transfers as we just tie a bow on today's transfer window. As we mentioned, Rasmus Højlund has gone to Napoli. Marcus Asensio has joined Fenerbahce. Rabiot back at Milan. Kanji has joined Inter. Chukwueze has made the move to Fulham. Meanwhile, Kevin joins Fulham as well. Boniface has made the move to Bremen. VAR, who was supposed to, Mr. Salisbury, who was supposed to be in charge of VAR in the Liverpool match, was taken off that.
Why did the referee not get called to the monitor here?
You've almost answered my... Why is Rob Jones not being punished as well? Because surely as a referee going over to the monitor, you have the ultimate say and you should have belief in your ability as an official to say, no, I'm going to say...
Well, they just don't have... It seems on the face of it happens very rarely. I think Michael Oliver... I mean, going back a year or 18 months, did it at Nottingham Forest. You could probably count in one hand over the last 3 or 4 years since VAR's been around how many times the referees have just not got together and agreed. But maybe it's hard to blame Michael Salisbury for calling him to the monitor. I mean, I know that sounds a little silly, but he probably thought, well, maybe we should just let the on-field referee make this decision, let him have a look at it. But then the referee himself, you know, this is the problem with over-sanitising the game. And this has been the big worry about technology, is when you start to go back and look at every nook and cranny, you'll find something. You'll find something. And it is, and it always has been, and it always will be, a contact sport. Now, if it was I think it was Chalobah, was it?
I think
yes.
so, yeah.
Oh, Muniz on Chalobah. I think if Chalobah was in possession of the ball and Muniz steps on him like that, then it's a free kick.
Yeah.
It's a free kick. But he's in control of the ball. He's in the act of trying to turn his body and get the ball under control. It is an unfortunate circumstance that sometimes, you knock into a player. And I think the worry is the referees don't understand what they're looking at.
Right.
And the over-sanitisation of the game is starting to frustrate people, where we're looking at all these minute contacts in the middle of the field and dragging a good goal back 60 or 70 yards. That's the worry.
The thing is, like, obviously, when it was brought in, clear and obvious, egregious. You shouldn't have to be going, ooh, is that a foul? Is it not a foul? A foul should be clear. It's a foul, bish, bash, bosh, get on with your life.
The thing is, for me, I actually don't have an issue with the VAR here.
Right.
How many times have we seen incidents on the field that go ignored and say, well, at least the VAR should call the referee over to have a look? Now, Jones is the referee. He's in charge of the game. He is the head man throughout. And just as he is empowered and entitled to ignore a linesman's flag. He is entitled and empowered to ignore a VAR calling him over to the screen. Just because he gets called over doesn't mean that he has to change his decision. He is the head of this refereeing team, let's call it. And so for me, the responsibility falls squarely on him. Now, to Craig's point, we can probably count on one hand in the time that VAR has been instituted, that a referee's gone over, had a look and said, no, I'm happy with my decision. But that's down to the PGMOL and how they handle those relationships. And let's get away from this high bar and all that nonsense. The referee is in charge of the game. Just because the VAR calls you over to have a look doesn't mean that you have to change your decision. This is on the referee. I think he should take 99% of the blame that's going around here.
Problem is, Jules, you've got two referees that are apparently some of the best in England who don't know what a foul is.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Rob Jones doesn't referee in 2 weeks' time for like game week 4 of the Premier League. We don't know yet who's going to referee those games, but I don't think it would be. I think there would be a sanction. I mean, how many times has Howard Webb had to call a club or a manager, whoever he calls, I don't know exactly who he calls, to apologise for another mistake made by all these incompetent referees? It's embarrassing. Really, it's embarrassing. And I mean, yeah, you apologise to Fulham and Marco Silva, but that goal could change everything in that game, and Fulham can win, and it's a very different story then. So even those apologies doesn't mean anything. I just hope we get to, you know, when they do this show with Howard Webb and Michael Owen, I think, from the Premier League, where he explains the decision, and then we can hear sometimes the transcript or read the transcript of what the two referees said to each other, the VAR one and the one on the field. This would be very interesting to see, but that was just a pathetic mistake.
By the way, when they talk about the previous incumbent in this role, Mike Riley, who was a bit of a strange cookie, right? And he wouldn't go on TV and do all that, and didn't seem to be very, very strong, right? And the refereeing standards were poor. But Howard Webb was going to come in, bit more up front, bit more in your face, bit more confident, certainly was a better referee. He was going to sort it out. He has not. I don't give two hoots if he goes on TV at the Premier League and explains it. Nobody gives a damn. Just get the decisions right. Get your referees sorted. Don't worry about FaceTime on telly. Just make better decisions. And if you can't work the referees into making better decisions, then he'll have to step down. Because the same mistakes are happening under Howard Webb that happened under Mike Riley, who was absolutely pilloried from each corner of the ring. And yet, Howard Webb, it seems to me, is getting a little smidge of a pass because he's gone on TV and they're explaining it. Nobody cares. The clubs don't care if you're explaining it. The damage is done, and the damage is done by very, very poor officiating.
And while we're focusing on one error here, I thought Fulham were the victims of two egregious errors by refereeing in that game, and which knocked the stuffing out of them. The second, again, Chelsea's second goal should have been disallowed. That knocked the stuffing out of Fulham and killed it as a contest. So we're focusing on one, but I feel Fulham have a lot more to be angry about. And just in terms of the VAR, again, I have no problem with them calling the referee over every time there's any kind of doubt. Where I think people get frustrated is the referee goes over and has to look at about 10 replays of every single incident. And that's where the bulk of the time is lost. Not in the amount of times he's getting called over, but when he does get there, that is taking 3-4 minutes to make what, on the face of it, is a very simple decision.
It's not just in England, by the way,
No,
Craig. Obviously, you covered, didn't you, Barcelona yesterday, where we were given a dodgy penalty. They couldn't check it in VAR because VAR was broken. Meanwhile, Atletico Madrid drew against Alaves. The pictures that the world is seeing, and it's interesting, boys, when I speak to you about spitting, there's something about it that makes it worse than pretty much anything else you can do on a pitch.
Yeah, in short, I don't think actions come much worse, in all honesty, in terms of disrespect on a field. And coming from somebody like Luis Suarez, with a team like Inter Miami and all that they represent in Major League Soccer. A couple of weeks we were talking about Major League Soccer suspending Lionel Messi for missing the All-Star game, suspending for one game, and a lot of back and forth, and how MLS kind of don't really enforce regulations against Inter Miami. No, this is an opportunity for them here. Opportunity maybe not the right word, but this is a big call for Don Garber and Major League Soccer to make around this. Because while, okay, Luis Suarez has history, not history in Major League Soccer, but he does have history. And now, as awful an act as you can ask, we've spoken about and we've seen MLS come down very heavy on players who use derogatory language, which I've applauded in the past. I want to see what they do here in this circumstance, given the club, given the player.
MLS now, Don Garber he's got to show some steel that he's never shown before. I'm glad Seattle Sounders won that game, because Inter Miami are nothing more than Barcelona B for the most part, right? And then when you see an incident like that, as you well know, before coming here, did a lot of commentaries on Luis Suarez and others in England. And I was a huge admirer of his talents when he was at Liverpool. But some of the things that he has done for club and country are repugnant. They are beyond the pale. It's not about a bad challenge here. It's not about a flailing elbow. It's not about a punch. The things he has done are disgusting. And what he did, clearly, and the camera has it, to that coach, is filth. It just is. And if MLS don't throw the book at this guy, then they might as well pack up, bringing big stars here. Because what they're saying is, you can come here and you can do what the bloody hell you want. Because we ain't going to touch you. Because you're Luis Suarez and you're Lionel Messi's mate. And you're at Inter Miami. That is disgusting what he did. It's absolutely uncalled for. If you had one of your kids, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, growing up and found them spitting at another kid in the playground, they'd be dragged home and they would be not out the house for a long, long time. We're talking about an adult here. One of the best players that played the game. MLS need to throw the book at this guy, because if they don't make an example of it, then somebody else is going to do it. And quite frankly, I don't even like to look at those pictures, Shaq, because it's just so disgusting to see somebody spit on another human being.
And at the same time, Sergio Busquets is not beyond repercussion here himself. He threw and landed a punch on an opponent who was not threatening. He was gesturing but was not threatening to Sergio Busquets. So again, you're talking about two of the biggest names in the past in world football, two of the biggest names in Major League Soccer, at a club that many will feel have been treated fairly kindly, to put it as nice as I possibly can. I don't see how Don Garber and Major League Soccer shirk their responsibilities with this one, because this is a huge moment for the league, for their leadership.
A big moment to see how they're going to deal with this, Jules.
Yeah, and Inter Miami as well, I think. If you're Javier Mas and the club, you sanction him. He represents your club. He's wearing your shirt when he spits at somebody. So MLS have to do their job, and the boys are completely right. But so do Inter Miami. You can't let off one of your players after doing something like that. Luis Suarez or not, it doesn't matter who the guy is. He's just one of your players wearing your shirt in front of the whole world, spitting at another staff member from the opposition. That's not acceptable. As a club, that's not acceptable. You fine him, you ban him yourself, I don't know, but don't wait for MLS to move first. I think Inter Miami, it would look really bad on Inter Miami if they were doing nothing, or if they were waiting for MLS to move first. When he's your player, you're paying his wages, ban him first and then see what MLS are doing.
Ten Hag sacked.
Oh boy.
As manager of Bayer Leverkusen, he said this: the decision came as a complete surprise. To part ways with a manager after just 2 league matches is unprecedented. A new coach deserves the space to implement his vision, set the standard, shape the squad and leave his mark on the style of play. Throughout my career, every season I've been able to see through to the end as a coach has brought success. Jules, Jules, you must do something really wrong to get sacked after 2 games.
Yeah, 62 days. I mean, 99 days since it was announced, 62 days since he started working on July 1st. I mean, you know how much I don't rate him anyway, so I was delighted.
No,
when
you
this
can't be
happened. And I
delighted.
don't wish
Don't
bad
be
on
delighted
anyone.
a man loses his job, Jules. Come on.
No. It's not for him losing his job. It's for people realizing how bad he is as a coach. I mean, to sack him after 60 days, Bayer Leverkusen must have think, yeah, we got this one really, really wrong. So it's not about him losing his job. Of course, that's not nice. But for people to realize that he should have never got the job in the first place, Dan. This is it, because he says in his statement, you know, it's too early. How can you make a decision? No, you can't make a decision like that, because they've seen you working for 2 months and they've realized that you were just not up for the level and the standard that they wanted. And it's a tough time, because they obviously lost a lot of key players. It's a transition time, new signings, all of that. I get it. But he was just never, even if they'd kept all their stars like Wirtz and Xhaka and Tan, whoever you wanted, Frimpong, he was never the guy anyway. He's just not good enough for that kind of level.
Smacks to me like players have been summoned in to have a cup of tea
Right.
with certain individuals and been asked about the manager. And the word clueless has
Yes.
probably
Yeah.
raised its head a few times, and they've gone, and they've probably watched the training and some of the games, and the pre-season was a bit horrendous as well when they had that embarrassing loss to
Some Brazilian team, under-20 team.
Botafogo.
the under.
There you go.
Yeah.
I know, come to you. I know you get it.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, you know, that is a quick exit. But in all fairness, sometimes you have to admire that. You don't want to see anybody lose their job, but sometimes you have to admire a club that admit that they've got it wrong and they make a decision swiftly and they move on, which not a lot do. What are you laughing at?
What next, Jules?
For Ten Hag, just going back to his garden in Holland,
And it's
for
interesting,
them,
if you take
like
a-
Greg said, at least
If you take a look at now, Ten Hag's lost his job, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's lost his job, and Jose Mourinho has lost his job as well. You go to Manchester United, it clearly is the start of something not great in your life.
Yeah, Ruben Amorim needs to make it work now, because whatever comes next for him is going to be a disaster, clearly, based on this list where only Ralf Rangnick, and to be fair, he's doing a decent job with Austria. It's not amazing either. And David Moyes coming back to Everton and obviously had a positive impact, as we know. For the rest, it's been an absolute disaster class since they left the club, really. And in the same week, for Solskjaer, Mourinho and Ten Hag to all lose their job as ex-Manchester United manager is pretty incredible.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you very much for all your questions. Craig and Shaka here. Jules, I was off this weekend and I watched the show, and then I saw you go, actually, I quite enjoyed the Liverpool-Arsenal game. It's a great tactical battle. Shut up.
It was!
Oh, you want goals, you want excitement. You want drama, not,
You've been spoiled with too many goals and this and that.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can appreciate a cagey, tight, interesting tactical battle in midfield. You know?
No, exactly.
You're just Ange Postecoglou in disguise, aren't you?
Sometimes you have to appreciate one shot on target.
A bit small.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
And Arteta bottling it again.
Oh,
not
boy.
starting Eze. How can you not start Eze?
There you go.
$20. That's annoying. Who has the strongest squad now, Arsenal or Liverpool? Craig?
Well, I think Arsenal have better options at the back.
Okay.
I think they're stronger there. With it, I don't know. It's close.
Yeah.
I think you have. I'll probably just go because they are the champions. I'll probably just go with Liverpool slightly, but it's very close.
So Liverpool, I think, are still a little light in the centre-back department. Quite clearly, they're trying to sign Guehi as a result. My concerns around Arsenal, and maybe not the depth of their squad, but how reliant they quite clearly still are on Bukayo Saka. I know Eze is to come in, and maybe he balances that off. Time will tell with that. So right now, I think Liverpool have the better squad as a result.
Well, Liverpool have two strikers, one who's proven in the Premier League, another one who's already shown some glimpses in Ekitike. Arsenal have a guy who's banging goals in for fun, but is not proven in the Premier League. So that's definitely a much stronger position for Liverpool.
Starting 11, Liverpool have a better team than Arsenal, yeah?
Yes.
I think that's fair to say. If we were to do the mix,
Everybody's fit.
If everybody's fit, obviously the back line is somewhere Arsenal dominate and Liverpool dominate.
Well, I don't know, because I think I'd take Arsenal's fullbacks. I think I'd take Calafiore over
that's what I said.
Kirkes,
Yeah, fullbacks
and I would take Timber over Bradley.
But midfield, like...
Well, I'm taking Rice. I think Rice goes into Liverpool
So
side.
you've got Gravenberch there as well.
Yeah.
McAllister.
Yeah.
And then up top, if we're going 4-3-3, you're going to have Isak every day. You're going to have Salah every day.
And I'm having Saka. It's a very... honestly, they are two very good squads that are leaving the managers, particularly Mikel Arteta, with very little room to manoeuvre. Obviously, Slot's got money in the bank because he had this success last year that nobody thought would come as quick as it did. Whereas with Mikel Arteta, he doesn't have that. He's got an FA Cup win quite a few years ago, but he has now the squad pretty much that he wanted. And that is piling. Whether we think his is better or his is slightly weaker, it is the squad that the Arsenal board have given him to win the title.
Yeah.
And that's given him very little for manoeuvrability.
Jules, obviously the quote you discussed yesterday where he said, look, in this sort of game, you're going to either win it or lose it two ways, basically. Something special happens or someone makes an individual error, and Szoboszlai's free kick was that something special. But surely as a manager, you can change the narrative of that. It doesn't have to be that way. And Arteta needed to do that, didn't he? More yesterday than he actually did.
Yeah, maybe. We explained, I think, well yesterday in the sense that they cancelled each other out because they just wanted to win that midfield battle and be quite cautious. Liverpool had considered quite a lot of goals since the start of the season. Arsenal are very good defensively, but they also lost Saliba, which probably added a little bit of like, let's not do anything crazy here and leave them some space, because Mosquera, I just never played that much time I know he came on against Leeds, but never played that much time before, since or any time in the Premier League. So that was the matchup really, because you can also say that Slot, I know they won the game, but they did nothing going forward with the ball either. So and they were at home. At least Arsenal were away from home. So if you blame Arteta for not being adventurous enough with the ball, then we need to do the same for Slot, because Slot had, Wirtz and Salah. It's not like if Saka was missing for Arsenal, Salah was there, and Ekitike was there, and Gakpo was there, and Wirtz was there for Liverpool, and they did nothing. So it's the same for both managers. I think both would have taken a draw, whether it was 0-0, like it would look like it would have been for 80 minutes, or even 1-1 or whatever. I think they were just ready to cancel each other out and be happy with that.
One more thing, because I was on my own yesterday thinking about
You do seem a bit bored.
I know, exactly. Why don't they fix it like La Liga do to make sure your big games are in October and March, say? Because this game being so early on, when it comes to entertainment, was always going to be a little bit diluted because we're at this stage of the season.
Was it always going to be to that point?
Don't you think?
No, well,
because
before we get to the fixture list, this is who Arsenal and Arteta have been for some time against teams in the top six. No, to Arteta's credit, his record against the top six is very, very good indeed. Probably the best of those top six against each other over the last couple of seasons. But he's never been overly adventurous. He's always relied on that solid defensive shape, not giving up too many chances, and then, again, looking for something brilliant or a set piece to be the difference. That's not where Arsenal came unstuck last season. Last season was just too many draws against teams lower down the table. So this result, while it's the third game of the season, or certainly this performance, didn't come as anything of a surprise to me. I think you've seen this from Arsenal time and time again, whether it's in August or in January.
So for the fixture, it doesn't matter when it is?
No. How many times have we sat here and spoken about top six games?
I didn't realise the Liga do that. I mean, is it
Yeah.
the Real Madrid, the Clásico is generally
October, November.
halfway through the first half of the
and then
season.
April or something.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I don't really think it makes... I get why they do that. I don't think it makes that much difference.
Because you always say, like, it takes 3 or 4 games to really get yourself going for the season. So surely as a Premier League...
Yeah, I know
As
what
a
you mean.
brand,
I will
you want your best team
I'll
at their
guarantee you that at least 2 or 3 more times this season we'll say, well, that was a bore with 2 of these big teams coming up against each other.
The counter argument to that is there are more bigger games in England, matchups.
Sure.
I mean, obviously some of the teams have fallen off, but as a general rule of thumb, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, City, Arsenal. These are all big. There's not as many of those in La Liga, it's more concentrated. Albeit at the moment, the Liverpool-Man United is not a great rivalry. But historically, it has been a huge game. I want to go back just quickly to the point about Arteta. Do you remember the season before last when they went to the Etihad late on in the season and basically played for a draw?
Yeah.
And we debated on this show the rights and the wrongs, and Arteta did as well. And I stand by what I said at the time, was it's only a good point if you win the league, which they did not. And therefore, he maybe this season, have to be more expansive on these bigger away games, which I wouldn't say they weren't expansive yesterday. I think they tried to be. I think it was the personnel. We talked about it yesterday with Jules. 3 midfielders that are all tidy, like to pass the ball, but are not creative. They didn't have that creation yesterday in the side. So I think it was more about personnel and how fit Martin Odegaard was and wasn't. The Eze argument we could have all day. I would rather have seen him play. Manager made a different
I would rather have
decision. You would, well, you
were home board.
But I don't.
$20.
I do think in those away games, he has to be less worried about what the other team's going to do and more concerned about what Arsenal do well, which I think would stand them in better stead.
Right, I completely took over that. I apologise. Let's go through some of your questions.
You're not getting 4 days off again. You just get too much in your head.
I know I do.
You come in here and then you're all excited.
I know. It's I would have
You need a
thought
life
it's nice
away
to
from
see.
FC, Dan. That's
Sorry.
You need a life away from FC.
You could stop that at life. Stop it there. Right, Shaka, if you were part of the Palace dressing room, do you start giving some banter to Guehi right when he walks into the training session tomorrow, or is it too raw?
Nah, he's going to walk away in a year's time on a bundle.
Right.
You make friends quick. Ask for a loan so you can get a loan next year.
Craig, what do you make of Manchester City's transfer strategy? They signed 3 goalkeepers, but no right back or a defensive left back.
Strange. I think we talked about that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a slightly incoherent strategy.
Oh, this old chestnut, Jules. Should FIFA step in and try to create a situation where all windows in the world are aligned together and closed before the start of the season, at least the ones that function in the same month cycle as August to May? Obviously, today we had a strange situation where La Liga closed later, didn't it, than England? Like Craig was saying before we came on air, just get it all done before the start of the season.
Yeah. Getting all done before the start of the season, for me, is a no-brainer. They should do that. And then some league starts a little bit a week later, as we saw this season again, which is quite often the case. But it doesn't matter so much. You just stop it when the first big European league starts, for example, and then that's it. It's difficult to do for the whole world, obviously, for obvious reasons. Even for leagues that start at different time or have already started and things like that. But I certainly think that you should not be able to sign players when you're already 3 games into the season.
How was Ten Hag expected to right a torpedoed ship? Yes, he made some gaffes, but many of his Bundesliga winning 2024 side was gutted and sold to the English market this summer.
Ten Hag knew exactly what was going to happen when he signed. They told him, we expect people to leave. They knew already Wirtz was going, Tau was out of contract, Frimpong was going to leave. So they knew that already. So he knew he was inherited a transition period where a few big players would leave, new players, probably younger, less good, would come, and then he would have to rebuild. He was very happy with that. He was very happy to have a younger team to rebuild it. The thing was, he was dire from the beginning. We mentioned on the show tonight that 5-0, or 5-1 actually, 5-1, I give him the goal. 5-1 drubbing by the Botafogo under 20, or in the first friendly in pre-season, which was a shocker. And the rest was shocking. The start of the season has been shocking. They were battered by Hoffenheim in the first game of the season. This weekend, they were 3-1 up with 11 men against 10 against Werder Bremen, who are not very good. They conceded 2 goals to draw 3-3. It was a shambles. And he's shambolic. He was a shambles. And that's why he got sacked.
Oh dear, it was Flamengo, by the way. No. If you're the board who hired him, what did he do in the interview that was so good that made you think, oh yeah, he's the one?
Well, this is the trouble, and I had a buddy in England who was coaching, and he said that the trouble is with getting jobs was you go into these interviews, and some of the people that have gone in, what is it? I can't say the words, but Stevie always says...
BS, I think you can say.
BS baffles brains.
Yes.
And they go into these meetings and they open up the
PowerPoint?
The PowerPoint, and they give the greatest spiel and you could ever, and it's all spiel, most of it. And these board members, these owners, these execs, these sporting directors, they sit there and they get suckered in by this nonsense.
Yeah.
And I mean that in all sincerity. There are very good people that give bullet points and PowerPoints and make sense.
How many meetings have you been to where that has been the case?
Where you sat back and said, what a good PowerPoint that was.
What a good... Did you like that bullet point, Shaka?
Oh,
that was very good, wasn't it?
Very good.
Well, I think you'll find it's right up my alley. but it is true. It is true. And these people go in and they basically hoodwink ownership, and then it doesn't take long for people to go, hold on a minute.
That PowerPoint wasn't so good.
That wasn't as good as Burley's PowerPoint, which was absolutely fantastic.
Let's skip the VAR question because we've done a lot about VAR. Shaka, meanwhile, everyone talks about outfield players needing time to acclimatise. What do they say in America?
Acclimate.
Acclimate, yeah. Yeah. Have you acclimated here? Probably there 50 years.
What accent was that?
That was my American accent.
You didn't know that?
Acclimate.
You didn't know that? They
No, I didn't know
acclimate.
acclimate.
Yeah.
You know they acclimate and they reach out.
Wasn't
Oh, just forget it.
What are you talking about?
There's a saying here, isn't it? Somebody will reach out to you.
Yeah,
Don't say it.
that's a normal saying.
yeah,
Everyone
but
says reach
No,
out.
I don't
What
say
does
that.
that have to do with acclimate?
What's that got to do with
How
in
do you bridge
Scotland.
those two?
They don't say that in
No,
Scotland.
they don't say it.
Don't say it in Scotland.
Don't say that in Scotland.
They also say, howdy. We're just going to bring up random sayings?
Somebody will get in touch with you. You pillock.
With a PowerPoint. With a PowerPoint.
So, Shaka, everyone talks about outfield players needing time to acclimatise after transferring to a new club and they get incremental minutes. So why do goalkeepers get thrown into the fire for a full 90?
Because we're far smarter than the rest of them.
Oh,
That's what it is.
yeah.
Smarter than the average bearer.
You can acclimatise quicker.
Yes.
Yes.
And acclimate. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Just throw us in, we'll be all right.
Perfect.
How did you acclimate to Reading? That must have been a bit of a...
Yeah, that must have been from...
God, that was a shocker. So, one game I played against Barnet. Got hypothermia at half time. It was when I just come over. I've just come over, I played Barnet. It is lashing down and cold.
Yeah.
And honestly, I whole half time I had to stand in the hot shower just so I could come out. Honestly, I didn't acclimate very well at all.
Clearly not.
Oh.
I hope no one reached out in the shower.
Back in the day, not today, because you could do that today and you're a hero. But back in the day, you'd be seen as a bit of a softie for doing that.
Yeah.
So did you get any stick from the lads or the manager?
We won the game 1-0. Kept the clean sheet.
There you go.
It was honestly, it was a shambles. It was
Okay,
so funny.
final question, AI. Someone's at Grok. Can you ask him a smart question for me? This is for Craig. Sure, he's a smart one for Craig. With the 2025-26 season underway, how do you think AI-driven analytics are reshaping scouting and player development in top leagues?
Well,
He's gone serious for this.
Reach out to the bullet point.
Just so happens I've got a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
no.
He feels like he's going to be judged by Grok.
There is no doubt that there are clubs, like particularly Liverpool, I think Brentford, and there are others, have used a scenario where a lot of the signings are not just driven by the naked eye, but by stats. By, how many games a player plays, how many minutes he plays, how often he's injured, how much ground
What about
he covers.
AI-driven analytics? Not just analytics, but AI.
All analytics nowadays is AI driven.
I haven't quite finished my artificial intelligence course yet.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
How's that
So I have
going?
no idea about that. I can only tell you clubs use
He's got
analytics.
through the artificial as he rests he's
There you
struggling
are.
with.
Jules, international break. I assume there's a holiday on the horizon, knowing you?
Oh, that's so bad. No, and you know what? I wish I could have 4 days off like you sometimes, but I can't. So.
Well, I'm very ill.
There's a-
Jules,
there's a-
you've got to remember that.
Bit of a
You've got to look
deflection
after
there.
myself.
Jules didn't answer. There's no chance Jules is on every single Gavin Jules Junior International.
Jules is everywhere.
He deflected there. Well done, Jules.
That's not true. I am.
Yeah.
I'm actually at the stage where I'm thinking there's nothing wrong with you.
I'm just using it.
You're on this sympathy train and you can't get off. You've made the call. You've told everybody.
That's right.
And now you just can't get off the train.
You keep showing up.
And now you're going to have to just go in and get it done for the sake of it.
It's fine. What you're just get it done, or else they're going to find out.
Listen. I
Take
lied.
it out and put it back in.
Or just do some scars.
Listen. I told them I lied to them. So just give me a transplant anyway.
Just sort it out.
About time though. It can't be long.
Take some pictures. That is it. That brings us to the end of today's show. International break.
Oh boy.
Good time for a new liver, actually. We'll be back tomorrow.